Greetings and welcome back to yet another episode of the Daily Run, as today we're playing as Samson. So this was one of the best dailies we've had in a really long time, if you're a masochist, and if you're not, it was one of the worst dailies we've had in a pretty long time. And not just that, it was just one of those dailies which I can see the positive of. Usually I think I'm pretty good at that. I'm just realizing maybe it's a fun challenge, maybe get some fun items, but this one really didn't have anything going for itself. First of all, we're playing a Samson, which I would say is one of the most annoying characters. He does have a little bit below average tear delay, which just makes him feel annoying to play. Maybe it's not just really how you're used to it, and also because of his high shot speed, it's kind of hard to aim at certain enemies. It all depends on the rooms that you face, but this daily didn't really go easy on us in that regard either. There were so many rooms with portals which spawned a bunch of enemies which have so much HP. It's a hard mode daily, which means there are a ton of champions, and not just that, there were also a lot of, I would say, the little poops which spawn more poops, and because the dips are so annoying to fight as, especially kind of they move erratically when you shoot them, they kind of bounce around, and you have to shoot them twice, and obviously that's, I would say, kind of annoying and pretty hard to do with a character that has an above average shot speed. But maybe if you can get around all of that, then you would say, well, maybe there are some other things that work. Like, for example, we get an Ivy Bag at a certain point, and that's usually something that kind of makes Samson good. And you would be surprised, that actually doesn't really help all that much, because there just weren't any opportunities to really use it. I mean, sure, you know, you can use it to kind of mitigate damage, increase your overall damage, but that doesn't really help you when you enter a room which has like 10 enemies in it, and all of them like take 5 hits to kill or whatever. It doesn't matter if you have 10 damage or 3 damage in that point, you're gonna be taking damage, right? The only difference is maybe how much damage you're going to take. And when you look at it from that perspective, I would say this was just one of those runs where you just try to get to the end. At least that was my strategy. I kind of treated this one as bed breakfast, is the reference I used yesterday, and basically you have to eat it because it's food, and you know, of course you need food in your system. In this case, I need my Isaac crack addiction to play the daily every single day, and once you get it down, you know, you're just maybe looking forward to the next meal, but in the moment, you know, it's just about being saturated. I did try to get to the end, and I think I was actually relatively fast, but of course my score was terrible. Not just because I didn't get to boss rush, and because I didn't manage to get to and believe me, I've tried. I didn't just give up. But there was like Curse of the Unknown and Womp 2, and I just couldn't get to boss rush because we can see that this floor is taking me like 3 minutes longer than it really should have. And just, I don't know, just really, just a horrible daily all in all. I don't think there are any redeeming qualities. Obviously, there are some things which I could have done better. Like, for example, the first floor was an XL floor, and if I didn't get hit there, that would have been better because I would have gotten the Devil Deal, and maybe there would be something good in there. And maybe even if I decided to skip it, you know, at least there would be a chance of getting an Angel Deal and maybe getting a little more points that way. I think I've heard that there was a Sacred Heart at some point along this run, but I did get hit quite a lot, and for that reason I didn't get a lot of the Devil Deals or Angel Deals which I could have gotten, so that's maybe a bit of a bummer. And maybe the only, or I would say the most damaging item I've had at this point is the sack that allows you to drop pentagrams on the ground, and it was actually surprisingly useful. I know that this item can be good if your maybe run is a little bit weak, but especially against chargers and round chargers, you can just kind of bright a circle down, you can lure them in, and that's pretty good. Of course, the problem is they still explode diagonally, and sometimes you just have no way to really escape, and you're still gonna get hit, but you know, at least we have that going for us. And maybe the most annoying part of this daily, you know, like all of the rooms are annoying, the large floors, the fact that we didn't get a lot of items, the fact that Devil Deals were bad. Well, that's all okay, but how about a run that not only doesn't it give you any items, but it basically gives you a way to survive forever? And so you're forced to go to the end, and you're forced to fight Mega Satan for like 10 minutes. And of course, because of Pyromaniac here, that means that whenever we drop a bomb, we basically heal. So that's our contingency plan, if that makes sense. So we're just gonna kind of be hoarding bombs, and when we feel like we're really in danger, we're gonna start dropping them to start and heal ourselves. And basically, we hope that that's gonna be enough to actually get to the end, and hopefully get enough points that way. I'm really kind of banking on the fact that a lot of other players won't have a good daily and they'll actually manage to die earlier on, so I'll just try to get ahead of all of those, but just basically trying to get to Mega Satan and just getting a lot of stage bonus and maybe the Mega Satan bonus. I don't really care how many times I get hit. Obviously to a certain extent I do, because I don't want to get hit like 3,000 times, right? But you know, even if I maybe walk into an enemy once or twice, it's not gonna be that big of a deal, because I get hit so many times in this run, it's so bad at this point that I don't think it's gonna make that big of a difference. And I do wonder how many people actually manage to die very early on. I do figure that a lot of people would just quit this daily, because it's not really a daily where you would die, because it has a lot of hard rooms. It's just an annoying daily, right? There's a lot of enemies which have a lot of HP, and you kind of have to fight them for a long time. So I do imagine at a certain point where maybe people don't get to boss boss rush, or maybe they do make it to boss rush, but it turns out there's like a champion version of Bloat there combined with the champion version of Cage, and they're like, I'm not playing this anymore, Alt F4, and that's understandable. But then again, I like to torture myself to some extent. Like I said, I need that daily Isaac crack addiction to fuel it so I can actually get going. But up until a certain degree, there's still, I would say, a lot of decision making that you have to do, even if you're just trying to get to the end. So at this point, it's just about survival, and to some extent I do like dailies which revolve around survival, because I think it's a different way of playing than I usually play, and that's maybe a bit exciting. But because we have the Ivy bag, I also never was really, I would say, not in danger, but I just never really knew what to do. So should I dodge damage by using the Ivy bag? Should I use it just to increase my damage? To a certain degree, I do want to do that, because obviously I want to get through the rooms faster, but then again, it doesn't really matter if I get hit or not, and if I use the Ivy bag, then maybe I need to use my bomb to heal myself, and I want to kind of save my bombs. So at least, maybe it was interesting from that aspect, because the night bombs, obviously, we're not in a position where we can just spam them, so it's, I would say, a bit strategic, just trying to distribute them. So should we use them offensively, or should we use them defensively? And maybe, that's the only saving grace I can say about this run. It did put us in an interesting position regarding our bomb usage, and just because of how Pyromaniac works, I feel like, overall, there are some things you can take exploit off. Ideally, of course, what you would do, maybe as a bit of an advanced strategy, is you would use an Ivy bag in a room where there is an enemy which can spawn bombs or maybe has an explosive effects, and then you can heal off those. For example, we just fought Pride the Thing, and what we could do, when he drops a bomb, we use the Ivy bag and just go into the bomb and know that bomb will heal us, and maybe, that's a more surefire way of actually increasing our damage and just maybe being a little bit safer, without necessarily using our consumables. Obviously, at this point, we did have golden bombs, so that kind of made all of that, what I just said, really inconsequential, because we can just spam bombs. But of course, this is still something I think it's worth remembering, at least for the next floors, because of course the damage resets every time you enter a new floor, but that's obviously something we all knew up until this point. And really, the MVP of this run, I would give out to the pentagram, the dust on the ground that you can draw with. Sometimes, it just ended up triggering because I was dodging naturally, and sometimes, it was intentional. It's still very hard to actually draw it on the ground, like make a big circle and not get hit. Usually just more about being in the right position at the right time. Like, it works better if the enemies are drawn towards you, as opposed to if you have to draw it around the enemy. But, besides that one little minutia, if you're okay with taking some damage, which you're inevitably gonna take, then I think it works pretty well, and the damage it does is actually pretty decent. So another, I would say, besides that item, the other one was Sacrificial Dagger, which is usually the MVP of any bad run. Again, I just get there impersonal. Even if I get hit, I don't really care. I just want to get this fight over with as soon as possible, because I don't want to be stuck here forever. I didn't decide even to explore Shoal or the Dark Room, because I felt like it wasn't really going to do anything for us. I think overall we would get hit much more than the bonus we would get by just exploring, so for that reason I figured it's actually going to be better. Like, in the most cases, I would go back and explore, and from what I've seen, that usually turns out to be a bad idea if your run is bad, because you're going to take more damage than you're going to necessarily gain as you actually get through. But then, maybe besides that little point, I just decided to go for it, and maybe, we never know, right? We can't know if this was going to be the right decision or not, because we can't go into the past and retry it with another choice and see where that would take us. But yeah, now I feel like it was the right choice for this moment. It didn't feel really good to play the daily in the first place, so I think, it worked out both well from my sanity perspective as well from the points perspective. So finally, we did beat Mega Satan with the Algiz rune and of course Sacrificial Dagger. I drop a little bump here to try to look fancy as I pick up the trophy, and that kind of finishes the run here. We are in the 100th place score-wise, but our time ranking is actually really good. So at least, we can say that we did well in that department. So 30,000 points for a Mega Satan daily is horrible, I don't need to tell you that. No rush bonuses, no exploration bonuses, no swag bonuses, a lot of damage penalty, but surprisingly low enough as to what I would expect. I actually did take quite a bit of damage in this run, but of course, because your damage penalty scales with your exploration bonus, that's gonna be relative to just how much damage you've taken. So for example, if you had more exploration bonus and if you took the same amount of hits of damage, we would actually have a higher damage penalty. And that's just the way it works. It's maybe a bit convoluted, but it is what it is. So with that said, I hope you enjoyed this one, guys, and I hope to see you next time.